people are like, well, you're not really supposed to run into people. You're supposed to try to avoid. And so I was like, okay, I'll do that if I can. But in the meantime, I'm trying to knock this guy out.
Hey, when was the last time you seriously considered your dreams? I mean, come on, you used to think about them all the time. What happened? I say it's time that you and your dreams got back together. I mean, think about it. You could live the van life in a totally customized Mercedes-Benz Sprinter. You could tour all 423 national parks, build a mountain cabin with your dad, or even start up your own business. Really, whatever you want to dream up. And it's a Mercedes-Benz van we're talking about here, kids. So expect innovative safety features like crosswind assist and blind spot assist. Expect amazing performance and reliability with an MBUX voice command system, a 5-star dealer network, and an available gas engine. It runs like, well, a dream. So what do you say? Head to the Mercedes-Benz dealership and get that Sprinter van. Tell them your dream sent you.
Hey everybody, what's up? Trey Wingo here, and welcome into Season 5 of Half Forgotten History. Once again, we're delighted to be partnering with my good friends at Mercedes-Benz Sprinter Vans for Season 5 because those vans can help a lot of dreams come true, and the athletes I'm talking to saw their dreams come true by playing out in their chosen profession. Look, Mercedes-Benz Sprinter Vans have helped a lot of my dreams come true. It's the perfect way to get to the golf course, get everybody to the tailgate, or just get everybody out of the house. Whatever your dreams are, Mercedes-Benz Sprinter Vans can help bring them to life. So to start Season 5, we're going to transition from a van to a bus, as in the bus, Hall of Fame running back Jerome Bettis. I sat down with him recently to talk about his career and how when he got offered a scholarship at the University of Notre Dame, he thought it was in Europe. True story. Let's start here. You probably don't remember the first time we met, do you?
Shit, I would have to think. I'm sure it was when I was playing. So I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
I know with your memory, you know, you have an incredible memory.
Well, it was actually before I got to ESPN. I was working in St. Louis when you were still a member of the St. Louis Rams, and you were holding out. And the thing was, is he coming? Is he coming to join the team or not? And all of us, the local reporters, found out what flight you were coming in on to St. Louis International Airport. And Lamont was your agent, right? Lamont
Yep.
Smith, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So you and Lamont got off the plane and you were like, holy hell, what are all these people doing here? And we did this massive sort of gang interview with you as soon as you got off the plane and landed in St. Louis.
Now I remember. I do remember that. It was insane.
Well, listen, we were hungry for football back then, man. It had been a long time since we'd had something. So it was you were a meal to a dying patient. Just put it that way. So we were very happy to feast on the carcass.
I understand it. It was part of the deal.
All right, we'll get to that a little bit later. But your story is so fascinating on a lot of levels because where you started to where you became and what the things you were able to do. If you go back and look at Jerome Abraham Bettis that grew up in Detroit doing the things you had to do to get by, would you ever have said to yourself, I would end up here?
No, I would have never thought. First of all, football wasn't even in the equation growing up. So I would have never thought that this path would have been available to me because I wasn't even thinking about even playing football, much less in the NFL.
Yeah, you were a bowler, right? That was your big thing you liked to do.
Yeah, so my mom, when we were kids, we were young. I have an older brother, Johnny. He's 4 years older than me. And so she had a brilliant idea that she wanted to take me and my brother and my sister, she's the oldest, and take us and put us into a bowling program. And that she thought that it would keep us busy and that it would kind of shield us from some of the environment. And on the weekends when really we don't have as much to do, we had something to do, so we didn't kind of end up hanging out in the streets in the neighborhood. So it was perfect. It worked very well because growing up, I was always bowling, always on Saturdays at the lanes. On Sunday, we were at tournaments. So I always found myself on the weekends thinking about bowling. And it did give me kind of a way to escape, if you will, some of the challenges and temptations in the neighborhood.
So you didn't start playing football till 14. I have to agree, knowing you like I know you, the first time a football coach saw you, they would have been like, "Oh yeah, give me some of that guy."
Yeah. So for me, the decision was a little bit more than just going out to play football. So I thought to myself, I need to give myself the best chance to get to college. I have an older brother,
Yeah.
older sister. And if school shopping was anything like me going to school, I knew I was going to be out of luck because, I was the last one to get to school shopping. So I got very little, right? So I said to myself, I'm going to make sure I take care of my school so that I can get set up because I don't want to get shortchanged on the school thing. So I decided to give football a chance so I can get a scholarship. And bowling, there was only one school that offered a full scholarship for bowling, and that was Ohio State, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
one school?
Yeah.
Every other school pretty much offered partial scholarships, and not many had bowling programs. So I knew that avenue was not going to get me to college. So I tried to play football my freshman year. I went out and the coach, my uncle was a football coach in the city. He knew the coach that he was sending me to, and he said, "Hey, you got it raw. He's tough, but he's raw. He's never played, but I think he'll make a really good football player." I played linebacker my first year. Um, did okay. My sophomore year, I played tight end and nose guard. Um, and that's when I kind of got scrappy. And then my junior year is when I actually played running back for the first time. So I didn't actually play running back until my junior year of high school.
Well, after playing nose guard, which is like getting being a fire hydrant at a dog show, you must have loved the idea of taking the ball instead of taking the punishment on the inside.
I so much did. I because now my thought was I get to deliver punishment. So
Yeah.
I was always the guy that was trying to, hit the guy. So then I said, I'm the running back. Instead of letting them hit me, I am going to hit them. And that was my mentality. So I started out and people were like, well, you're not really supposed to run into people. You're supposed to try to avoid. And so I was like, okay, I'll do that if I can. But in the
Yeah.
meantime, I'm trying to knock this guy out. And so, and they were like, okay, well, we're not going to give you the ball that much. And I had to evolve to become a guy that wanted to get yards and not hunt down linebackers.
But I have to believe in high school there weren't a lot of dudes that were as thick as you were.
No, I was so my junior year, I was probably about 6 foot, well, no, 5'10", and I weighed about 225 pounds, 230. So I was put together pretty good, and I was pretty fast. So it was one of those when my coach saw me, he loved um, what I could do because he had already coached a pro player in Pepper Johnson
Yeah,
who
Pepper.
went to
Yeah.
Ohio State and played for the Giants,
Giants.
won a Super
Super
Bowl.
Bowl. Yeah.
And so he went to high school. So my high school coach was familiar. He knew what an NFL player kind of looked like in high school, and then I played linebacker as well. And he said to me that, hey, you got all the things that it takes. We just got to, get you now because I was more of a linebacker than I was a running back.
Yeah.
He's the one that convinced me to play running back in college because most colleges wanted me at linebacker. But my high school coach said, you're too short to play linebacker in the NFL if that's your dream. He said, and he didn't know that really wasn't my dream. My dream was just to get to college.
Yeah.
That's what my goal was. But he was thinking long term for me, saying, hey, if you play running back, you'll be kind of the perfect size for a fullback. 6 foot, 240 pounds, and at the time I ran a 4.48. I was pretty fast extremely fast to be as big as I was. So he was looking at it saying, "Hey, you're going to be the prototype if you play fullback." So he convinced me, and that's really what kind of set me on my path. Because before that, I was probably going to be an undersized linebacker, trying to make it. But I was, I was tough. But like you said, I was a big kid at an early age.
Well, listen, it worked because you were the number one rated player in the state, according to the Detroit Free Press, and you were the Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Michigan, which is no small feat. So when did you know that Notre Dame was going to be the place for you?
Initially, it's funny because having every weekend being in the bowling lanes, I never watched college football, right? So
Yeah.
I didn't know any of the schools. So this was all pretty much new to me. So I was watching, and I didn't know where a lot of these schools were, So I'll never forget the first letter I got from Notre Dame. They sent the letter, and on the letter, it's got a gold dome like in the corner,
Yeah.
and it's pretty neat, right? So I'm looking, and I'm like, Notre Dame. I'm like, where is? I said, isn't this in Europe? I'm not going. I had no idea. No idea where Notre Dame was.
Let me tell you something. Having spent a few weekends in South Bend, I can think of no place that is farther removed from the great cities of Europe, with all due respect, than South Bend, Indiana. Right? Those two things are not similar.
I had no idea. I'm like, where? I knew where Michigan was because I'm from Detroit. So I knew Michigan was in Ann Arbor. You know that. Michigan State. But outside of those two schools, I didn't know where anywhere was. So this was like all new to me as it was happening in real time. It was, it was mind blowing because now every week I'm getting these calls from coaches and I'm getting coaches coming into the school to meet with me. And so this was it was very much out of my wheelhouse, the experience. So Notre Dame quickly came on the scene, and I started to watch, some of the games during my senior year, and I watched them. They played Michigan every year, so that was a big game. So I got a chance to see them, and in time, it just came down between the two schools that ultimately I decided were Michigan and Notre Dame. Which school was going to be best for me? I just determined that the offense for Notre Dame was going to be better suited for me because Michigan had just signed the number one tailback in the country out of high school, and he was going to be coming to going to Michigan. So I just knew if I wanted to have any opportunity to really touch the football a little bit
Yeah.
at fullback, that my best chance would probably be to go to Notre Dame, and it worked out.
It
I think.
certainly did. You set all kinds of records, and you end up being a top 10 pick in the draft. And, while you were trying to figure out where to go in college and what would be best for you, you couldn't have landed in a better spot when the Rams took you with the Chuck Knox heavy offense, right? For a running back, that had to be an absolute dream to land with that coach on that team.
It was because he wanted to run the football, and they had just had a running back there that went over I think 1,100 yards or whatever. So it was one of those offenses that was proven that if you can get in there, they're going to give you the football. And obviously, from a offensive standpoint, I became the focal point pretty early on. And they, as I got better, they gave me more and more carries. And as I got more and more comfortable with the NFL game, my development kind of skyrocketed. So it went from my first preseason game, I'll never forget, we were playing the Arizona Cardinals, and the game, like, it felt like it was going 100 miles an hour. I was just so nervous, and it's just like, choo, choo, choo. And I was thinking to myself, oh boy, I'm in trouble. This gotta, it's gotta slow down somewhere. And eventually, as the preseason games rolled on, the first couple games were a little quick, but then I quickly kind of got it and it transitioned. And then I started to take off, and Coach Knox, he just gave me the ball and gave me the ball opportunity after opportunity, and it led for me having a breakout, rookie season and being a rookie of the year and all the success. And the moment that I felt that I had made it, was when I got to the Pro Bowl. And the other two running backs with me on my team was Emmitt Smith and
Pretty
Barry
good.
Sanders. And here I am, a rookie. I'm a rookie. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm I'm in the backfield with Barry Sanders and Emmitt Smith. I should be blocking for these guys. I should be like a running with these guys. So that was that moment when I was just like, wow, this is
Yeah,
pretty
I'm
cool.
sure like that point you're like, wait, one of these things is not like the other. Like this is like put me in a separate group, especially growing up in Detroit, right? And knowing seeing Barry do his thing all those years.
Exactly. And me and Barry have become friends because we had the same agent. Lamont was his agent as well, so I got a chance to talk to him a couple times. So just being in that room with those guys, it made me feel as though I was. I had made it and I was supposed to be there. And I think that really helped my confidence more than anything going forward, knowing that I am sitting with the best of the best.
Yeah. So the first 2 years as part of the LA Rams are absolutely great, 1,000 yards each in the next 2 years. Then the team moves and they bring in a different coach and things take a turn that'll eventually turn out to be the greatest thing that ever happened to you, but it didn't feel that way at the time. Why don't we take a quick break here and we'll come back with that story with Jerome Bettis right after this on Half Forgotten History. Here on Half Forgotten History, I get to chat with the top players, coaches, and personalities that I've had the pleasure of connecting with through my 2+ decades of covering the game of football. But this football season, I'm also looking forward to something else. To traveling and reconnecting with many of the guys I've talked about at the actual games. Yes, we can do that now. And when you travel with the U.S. Bank Altitude Connect Visa Signature Card, you'll also earn the most from it. So here's what you want to do. Hit the road and take it all in from points of interest to points back for how you travel. For example, you can earn 4 times points on travel and at gas stations. And if you book your prepaid hotel or car rental directly in the Altitude's Reward Center, you can earn 5 times points. Plus, as you know, you'll earn 2 times points on groceries, dining, and streaming services. And all other eligible purchases, you'll earn points on those too. So start earning more today and connect with 50,000 bonus points and a $500 value when you spend $3,000 within the first 120 days of an account opening. Learn more at usbank.com/altitude connect. The U.S. Bank Altitude Connect Visa Signature Card is issued by U.S. Bank National Association ND. Some restrictions may apply. Member FDIC. This episode of Half Forgotten History is brought to you by Intuit, the company powering products like TurboTax, QuickBooks, Mint, and Credit Karma. For anyone out there using TurboTax online, their error recognition tool catches mistakes you might have missed. And we all make mistakes. Like when I input my information to get my tax return, if I misplace a digit, which can happen, in my routing number, my refund could get delayed for weeks. Nobody wants their refund delayed. Luckily, Intuit has my back and will detect common errors like these on the fly so that you can correct it and get your return on time. And QuickBooks help you manage your business all in one place, from tracking everyday expenses to being ready for tax time. You can also send invoices, receive payments, we all like that, run payroll, and track future cash flow right inside QuickBooks. It's as easy as some of the plays our guests have made on Half Forgotten History, and they made it look easy, trust me. Even if you don't own a small business, Mint's budgeting tools and recommendations are there to help you save for whatever, like saving up to go golfing at some great courses. And I have some great trips planned. I'm going to go out to Hawaii for a little bit, going to go to the desert, play a little golf there. So I want to make sure I have those funds where they need to be. Intuit works for what you work for, and whether that's a small business or just you as an individual, Intuit's innovative products make managing your finances and setting yourself or your business up for success really simple. All right, back with Jerome Bettis on this episode of Half Forgotten History. So, in keeping with our partner this year, Mercedes, it's a dream to drive a Mercedes. It was a dream for you to be in that Chuck Knox offense with the LA Rams. And then it kind of got nightmarish with Rich Brooks and what the St. Louis Rams were doing, but it turned out to be a dream for you as well with where you ended up. And we'll get to that in a minute. But when you heard the team was moving and there was going to be a coaching change, what was going through your mind? Because you almost didn't show up.
Yeah, for me, it was difficult because, I had just had 2 big years, went to the Pro Bowl both years, 1,000-yard seasons. And we were trying to renegotiate our contract, and the
Yeah.
team told us, hey, we are about to go on this extensive move. We're moving to St. Louis. Once we get to St. Louis and settle in, then we will continue the conversation.
Yeah.
When they moved to St. Louis, they did not continue the conversation. And
What a shock.
right. And for me, that was a bit of a betrayal in that, you say what you're going to do. I mean, if I'm your best player, then you would treat me as such. At the very least, let's have the conversation about, hey, maybe not this year, maybe next year, let's talk. Well, they went cold, no conversation, zero. So at that point, I told my agent, that's fine. Well, if they don't want to talk, I don't want to show up. And that's basically what happened. It was a principal issue for me. It was,
Yeah.
you said you were going to do something. I didn't say I needed the new contract. You said that we would pick this up and we would continue the conversation after you moved. After you moved, they wouldn't return our phone calls. I called personally. I didn't receive a call back. So at that point, I said, if it's now you've made it a personal issue. And so I decided not to show up until somebody called me. I said, somebody's going to call me because nobody wants to give me a call now. So I'll just wait until somebody calls me. And it had to be maybe 2 days into camp. I got a phone call and they said, hey, and I said, funny that you guys are just giving me a call as training camp has already started, and then we kind of aired out our issues and went through that. But in the meantime, the coach, Rich Brooks, when he had been hired, we had a mini camp, right? Introductory mini camp when he came in. So I was there. I was at the mini camp, and this mini camp was in LA. The team hadn't moved yet.
Yeah.
So we had this mini camp, and at the end of the mini camp, he asked about 8 or 10 guys who were the leaders on the team. He said, "Hey, if I ask the team to come in a couple days early, would everybody be amenable to it?" I said, "Sure." Everybody's to a man said, "Yeah, we would do it." Well, he held that as saying I lied to him about coming in early because I had a contract. And I tried to explain to him, this is a contract situation. This has nothing to do with you. It has zero to
Right.
do with you. He felt as though I lied to him. And so now that was the kind of flag that he was going to carry, that, hey, you lied to me, da 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 da. And so from that point on, our relationship was non-existent. So when I did show up to camp, he wanted to, at that point, do everything he could to try to uh, take me out of the lineup and not allow me to play.
He wanted you to be a fullback again. He wanted you to be a fullback again, more than a running back. Yeah.
Well, what happened was that season, there was another guy, I can't, Leonard, I can't think of his
Leonard
name.
Russell.
Leonard Russell.
That came over from the Patriots. Yeah, number 42.
Leonard
Yeah.
Russell was the other running back. And so what he was trying to position was for Leonard Russell to kind of take my spot and that kind of thing. And so ultimately, I'll never forget. We went down to Atlanta. I had like a 40-yard run. And then after I have a 40-yard run, I don't play again the rest of the game. It's kind of like, what are you doing? So he did these kind of things, and for whatever reason, hey, it is what it is. But the problem I had was he would say that I was a cancer in the locker room when I never, not one time, used my situation to say anything negative in the media to any of the players. I just kind of, hey, I took it in stride and I handled it the way that you're supposed to handle it. But then after the season, he said that I was a cancer in the locker room and I was doing all these negative things, and that was just a flat out lie. So I was at that point. Then they came to me and asked me, well, would you consider playing fullback next season? And I told them, I said, I will play fullback, but not here.
Yeah.
I said, I will not play here again. And then at that point, I went back to Notre Dame. I re-enrolled in school, and I was committed to finishing my degree. And I was not going to play football again if they wanted me to come back to St. Louis. I was that committed to not playing. So the long story short, my agent and the general manager, vice president, they got together and they were able to uh, figure out a way that I would be traded. The interesting part about that was they gave me permission to seek a
Right.
trade.
They
So
asked you where you wanted to go.
yes, so my agent and actually my agent, he started the process. So he found two teams that were interested. Both teams were going to give the same thing, a second round pick and a conditional fourth round pick or
Oh
whatever.
my God.
So it was the Houston Oilers at the time,
Yep.
and it was the Pittsburgh. My agent, he wanted me to go to Pittsburgh because the Houston Oilers were picking 15th in that year's draft, and he had a running back in the draft, right? The top running back in the draft that year. So he wanted me to go to Pittsburgh, but I was looking at both of the options. The running back happened to be Eddie George.
Eddie George.
And so I looked at Pittsburgh, and there was a couple of reasons that made me say, you know what, this is the place I want to go. One, they had just lost in the Super Bowl to Dallas, and they had a championship caliber football team. But two, they loved big running backs. They
Yeah.
revered the running game, and they enjoyed 4 yards or 3 yards in a cloud of dust, right? It wasn't something that was foreign to them. So that was very enticing. So I ultimately made the decision. I wanted to go to Pittsburgh, and then Eddie got drafted by Houston, and it became great for both parties.
It did.
But me, Pittsburgh was a dream place because if there was ever a team in a city that fit me as a player, but as a person as well,
Yeah.
everything just kind of together. And the nickname the bus kind of
Myron Cope.
reemerged,
Yeah.
and it just became a match made in heaven. It was perfect.
But I just want to be clear so people understood. Like right around the draft in 1996, I think it was April 20th, 1996, future Hall of Famer Jerome Bettis was traded away for a third-round pick. They sent you and a third-round pick to Pittsburgh in exchange for a second and fourth-round pick. That has got to be one of the worst, most lopsided trades in the history of the NFL.
It was in retrospect, it was a bad decision. But you know what?
Horrendous.
I'll never forget the comment that Rich Brooks made that he needed a game breaker at the running back. And then they commenced to draft Lawrence Phillips,
Which was a disaster on so many levels.
to take my place on so many levels. And it was one of those things where you got everything that you wanted because you you had this idea in your head that I couldn't be a game breaker. And then the next year in Pittsburgh, we play the Rams.
Oh, I remember.
And I break a 50-yard touchdown run in that game. And it was just fitting because for a coach who said I couldn't break a game open, I wasn't a game breaker, to do it against them in the very next year, it was very rewarding for me, to say the least.
Listen, your Steelers career, and we'll get to the highlight of it, obviously, but there were so many interesting things that happened to you in Pittsburgh besides running for 1,400 yards and 1,600 yards and 1,300 yards and 1,100 yards. Like, to this day, when I say the name Phil Luckett to you, what comes to mind?
Oh, just a travesty. Unbelievable. So, but here's the worst part of that whole thing.
So people that don't know, so just so I know,
Okay.
it was an overtime game in Thanksgiving. The Steelers were in Detroit taking on the Lions. The game went to overtime, and Phil Luckett was one of the referees who was calling the coin toss. And you said what?
I always called heads. I always did the coin toss every game. We were on the road. I always called heads. So this was really the first time we kind of went into overtime in a while. So in that moment, they come up and they say, who's going to call it? I say, I'm going to call it. And he says, well, he throws it up. He says, well, call it in the air. He threw it up and I said, I went to say heads like I always do. I said, tails. And he just out of nowhere said, you said heads, it is a tails, right? At that point, everybody froze and started looking around like, what just happened? Wait a minute. Even the guys from the Lions were looking like, because they all heard me say tails. I think Luckett heard the initial head and was into the coin toss and didn't listen to the rest of it. And you can hear it on the audio, but it was and then the Lions go down, they win the game. Coach Coward, I love him. He's like, you are fired. You're fired from the coin toss. I got fired from the coin toss. And it was just like, I know I did it right. He's like, you are fired. So I was fired from the coin toss from that day forward. So it was a very bad day. Very bad day for me.
This just in, officials are still struggling in the NFL, in case you hadn't noticed it. It hasn't gotten much better.
But I see Paul Tagliabue, right? Yeah. That next year in Pittsburgh, he came in for something. And so I say, Commissioner, what? He says, well, neither one of you guys were wrong. And I'm thinking to myself, how is that possible? Yeah. There's no possible way neither one of us is wrong.
You got to walk that line sometimes.
They named the rule after me, and now it's the Jerome Bettis rule, and it's like you don't really want to have a rule named after you in a really negative way, but I'm stuck with that. So every Thanksgiving, it always comes up. I know for sure I will see myself on television somewhere around Thanksgiving time.
Yeah. And then another really weird thing happened to you. You missed 7 games, I think, with a groin injury in 2001, but the Steelers are 13-3. They have a great season, so you're getting ready for the postseason. You're ready to go back, and you're ready to play after missing all those games down the end of the regular season. And in warm-ups, they give you a pain-killing shot, and your leg goes numb, and you can't play in the game over the Ravens.
This one was it was shocking. So I practiced all week, and I had just a little bitty nagging kind of achy pain in my groin area. And I said, Doc, can we just do something to knock that little edge off? So I won this game. I don't really want to feel anything. If we can just knock this, it's just a little bitty spot, right? And he was like, sure, show me where the spot is. So I said, so he gives me the numbing shot. Well, whatever happens, it hits my
femoral artery
nerve.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, I'm out in pregame. And I'm warming up for pregame. And I go to catch the ball, and my my foot is sliding against the ground. I'm tripping.
You couldn't feel it.
What is going on? Why am I? But I can't feel it because it's numb. I don't feel that I'm not fit because my mind is telling my leg to do everything. So I'm thinking that it's doing it. But what I'm realizing is that I'm tripping. Something's not right. So I say to myself, let me go back in the training room. So I beeline to the training room. Well, in our tunnel, there are some steps. There's 3 steps to go back into the locker room. So I'm jogging, and then I go to take the steps. And I thought I was taking a step, but my leg didn't go up. So I crash into the steps, right? And I'm literally crawling into the locker room, and I'm yelling to the trainers because my leg now has gotten to the point where it won't even allow me to get up to walk into the room. So I'm literally crawling and I'm yelling, I'm going crazy. And as soon as they came to me, they knew exactly what it was. I'm crying. The doctor, he's crying. It was crazy because and so here's what I said. I said, Doc, well, give me something. Can you give me something to kind of reverse it, right? He's like, well, no, we can't. He said, there's nothing to reverse. I said, okay, well, all right. So I'll be good for the second half then, right?
I
He
don't think
said,
so.
yeah, he said, if the second half was 9 hours from now. And I was like, what?
Oh, man.
I was like, what? He said, yeah, Jerome. He said, it's going to be 9 to 11 hours before this thing wears all the way off. And I was just like, you have got to be kidding me. So it was one of the weirdest moments I've ever had to miss a playoff game. I mean, after warming up, I'm in warm-ups and I just disappear and people don't know what happened to me. And I'm in the training room and I can't walk.
Yeah, and it was just a couple years later. You guys, it was Ben's rookie year, and you guys were unbelievable. I think you went 15-1 that year. Home field advantage, and you're getting to play the AFC Championship game in Pittsburgh on a freezing cold day. I mean, this was a Pittsburgh Steelers. There was a snowstorm. People were worried, were the Patriots going to get in there? And you guys were the number 1 seed, and it all came up short. And there was that shot of you on the bench afterwards, and it certainly looked like at the time that you had the realization on your face that I've played my last game, and we came up just short. But it turns out someone made a promise to you, and that brought you back for one more year.
So that game, I was kind of resigned to my fate. I realized that, you know what, I gave it a hell of a run, and that, you know what, I've got nothing left, and this is the end of the road for me. So in that moment, I was kind of taking all in. Tears start coming down my eyes, and I'm crying. And then I go and take a knee on the sideline, and I'm crying. And Ben Roethlisberger comes up next to me, and he says, "JB, man, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." And he just said, very instinctually, like he knew the decision that I was mulling over. And he said to me, he said, Jerome, just give me another chance. He said, I promise you, I'll get you to the Super Bowl, right? And now here I am, this 32, 33-year-old guy, been in the league 12 years, and I got this kid here who's, this youngster, really. He doesn't know anything.
Zero.
He's saying he's going to promise to get me to the Super Bowl. And I'm like, yeah, right? And initially you say, okay, just shut up. Really, just shut up. Leave me alone, right? And that's kind of what you're thinking. And so it was one of those moments where I heard him, I'm listening to him, but it was just still not, I just didn't think that was it. So the next day I go into the team, I ask coach to talk to him. I tell the coach that, hey, I'm retiring. I tell the whole team that I'm done, and there's no dry in the house. Everybody's crying. I'm crying. And coach told me, listen, he says, just think about it. Don't make any rash decision, right? I said, okay. Well, just so happens my life was changing already. So my daughter was about to be born literally the next day.
Wow.
2 days later. So I fly from Pittsburgh to Atlanta, where I was living with my wife, and now the next day I get there, that night she goes into labor. The next day my daughter's born. So I am really turning the page on that chapter of my career and my life, and I'm moving on in my head. Well, my daughter was born prematurely, so she was a preemie. She's in the hospital. I get a phone call from the league office. The league office, this is after the Super Bowl now. It's been a week. Now they have the Super Bowl. The Patriots win the Super Bowl. I get a call that Monday, and they say Corey Dillon broke his ribs in the game. He was in the Pro Bowl. You're the first alternate. Do you want to go to the Pro Bowl? I said, you know what? Let me check with the boss.
Yeah.
But Probably, in all probability, the answer is no. My daughter's still in the hospital. But let me add, I just want to, So I talked to my wife, and she said something very profound to me. She said, "Is if this is the end of your career, you want it to end on a positive note as opposed to having lost in the AFC Championship? Wouldn't you want it to end having gone to the Pro Bowl, having kind of received some of your just desserts on your way out? Wouldn't you want that to be the last memory?" And I said, you know what? That is very accurate. That makes a lot of sense, and you're right. So I called back and said, yes, I'll go. Well, I didn't realize that the Steelers, because we lost the AFC Championship, the whole entire coaching staff was the staff for the
Right.
Pro Bowl. Because we were 15-1, I think we had 8 guys. We had the most of any team of players at the Pro Bowl. So we had 8 teammates of mine. Plus, we had teammates that each guy brought with them. So we had about 25 teammates there. We had the coaching staff, and then the Rooney family, the ownership, decided to come as well. So now you've got the coaches, the owners, the players, everybody's at the Pro Bowl. And we had a Steeler luau. It was a Steeler event just for the Steeler guys and the players and the families. And so it was just a great event. Well, at the Steeler event, 2 guys kind of they were harassing me all night. The guys were harassing me all night to come back for another year, right? I'm thinking I'm done with having to convince these guys that I'm done. So they got a whole nother week to have me, And so we had this Steeler luau, and Clark Hagens and Larry Foote.
Linebackers.
Larry Foote's from Detroit. Yep, linebackers, both nutty as ever. I call them crazy. You got to be crazy to play linebacker in the NFL.
Correct.
So these guys, they pulled me to the side, and I'll never forget. Clark said, "Listen, man, we were 15-1 last year. We're gonna have this great team. We're gonna just the same team coming back. We're gonna be just as good, if not better, next year, right?" I was like, "Wow." I said, "You're right. That's a great point. That's interesting." Then Larry Foote says, "And the Super Bowl is in our hometown, man. You gonna hate missing the Super Bowl in our hometown." And I was just like, because as a football player, you don't think about where the Super Bowl is next year.
No.
You think about where the Super Bowl is that year. You're not even thinking about one next year, 2 years. And so I had no clue the Super Bowl was in Detroit. And when Larry told me that, it really struck a chord. And I thought to myself, if they go back to the Super Bowl in my hometown and I'm not there, I'm going to be a streaker on the field. I'm going to get on the field some kind of way, right? It's like, I'm getting on. It's like I thought to myself, this would be the worst thing in the world imaginable to be in Detroit, the Steelers win the Super Bowl in my hometown, and I'm not part of it. And those talks convinced me, along with talking to my wife, that you know what, I needed to come back. And once I decided to come back, it was one of those in the back of my head that, you know what, we got a great football team. But it wasn't until the first playoff game of that season.
Yeah, because we all know where this is headed, but it gets there a little bumpier than everybody thought. So why don't we take our second break here? We'll come back and talk about how we got to where we eventually ended up, because it was not the smoothest of ride. We'll get back with that with more from Jerome right after this. It's football season, baby, and you know what that means? It means we're going for 2 here with the sponsors of this show, Manscaped. Look, blitzing through hairs has never been easier, and it's time you joined the 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using code WINGO to get 20% off plus free shipping. It's 3 and out the window for all those other trimmers, and now go tame that Wildcat offense. The world is starting to open up, and the Performance Package 4.0 from Manscaped is here to help you get ready. Inside, you'll find their brand new Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Retriever toner, plus 2 free gifts, Performance Boxer briefs, and the Shed travel bag. The Performance Package 4.0 from Manscaped is the perfect package for your package, and a key for a great grooming and hygiene routine to make sure the boys downstairs are as smooth as Tom Brady in the fourth quarter. The Lawnmower 4.0 has a 7,000 RPM motor and a new multifunction on-off switch that can engage a travel lock and gives you the ability to turn the 4,000 LED spotlight on and off when you need it for that more precise performance. Did I mention this thing's waterproof too? Rain, snow, or sleet are no match for the waterproof power of 4.0. Although if you're doing this in the snow, I have serious questions. Look, there's no 15-yard penalty for this clipping. This package also comes with a weed whacker. The Elite Nose and Ear Hair Trimmer is also waterproof and uses a 9,000 RPM motor, powered 360 degrees rotary dual blade system. The trimmer also has proprietary skin-safe technology, which helps prevent nicks, snags, and tugs in those delicate areas. After thinning your footballs, show them some love with Manscaped's liquid formulations. We have an exclusive offer for our audience. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code WINGO at Manscaped.com. Manscaped also threw in 2 free gifts, their Performance Package 4.0, the Manscaped Boxers, and the Shed Travel Bag. So, get 20% off and free shipping with the code WINGO at Manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at Manscaped.com and use the code WINGO. All right, back with Jerome Bettis on Half Forgotten History. So you make the emotional plea to come back, you're ready to roll, and you're going to be great. And the Steelers, who were 15-1 in 2004, are going to be just as good, except you guys weren't. And now it's late in the season. It looks like you guys are going to miss the playoffs. You're no longer the feature guy anymore. Fast Willie Parker is there. He's doing things. And at some point, did you think, wow, I came back and we're not even going to make it into the playoffs?
I said I'll never forget it. We had just lost to Cincinnati Bengals, and this was the lowest point of the year for us. Obviously, the Bengals being our big nemesis in our division, them to come into Pittsburgh and then to beat us, right? And it was a sickening feeling. And I thought to myself, I came back for this? I don't believe this, right? It's like I could have been somewhere sipping a pina colada somewhere. What am I doing? And so the next week, after we lose to them, now I'll never forget, Coach Kyle, we come into the meeting room and it is dire straits, right? Everybody knows the position that we're in. We're playing the Chicago Bears. And on our board, right, we have the big board in our team meeting room. And usually every year, I have been with him for 9 years at that point. This was my 10th year with Coach Cowher. Every year he put each game, it'd be 16 games up there, and he would have a win-loss, and then he would have certain key categories that he always felt there was like 3 to 5 categories. If we won 3 of the 5 categories, and we would probably win the game, like, time of possession, a turnover margin, those kind of things, right? And he always put that on there. And so he wiped everything off the board, and all it said was Chicago. So everybody was like, whoa. In 10 years, nobody had seen the board be empty. And it just said Chicago. So we knew it was serious. So when he came in, it was very serious. And he was just basically letting us know that, guys, this is one game. All those other games, the next games that's coming, none of them mean anything. It's a one-game series right now for us, right? And really, it put us in playoff mode before everybody else is even considering the playoffs. So we were in the playoff mode with I believe 4 games to play. And so he said all of this, and so now the Chicago game is a big deal. Their defense was a number 1 ranked defense in the league. I think Urlacher was MVP level. So it was just kind of that deal. So we were like, this is serious. And so we go into this game knowing that it is a must win. And lo and behold, we get to the game, and the conditions are nowhere near
Awful.
what you would perfect what you want for a football game. It was muddy, it was wet because it was snowing, and then we had our field has the coils underneath that it melts, but it makes it slushy and wet and nasty. And Willie Parker is what we consider a Ferrari, right?
Yeah.
He's a
fast Willie
guy,
Parker,
quick guy, fast Willie Parker, and he couldn't get his footing. Well, I'm a mutter. My mother's a mutter. I'm a mutter. So it just was perfect. So in the first half, couldn't get anything going. I had 1 yard in the first half. They put me in for the second half, and the magic happens, and we start going.
Boy, did it.
And I start breaking off some big runs, and we have some big moments. And I think the moment that really kind of encapsulates my career in one play, if you will, was a play late in the game, going down to score, and they call a counter play, and this was one of those great plays. Alan Faneca pulls out. I go behind him. I get in the hole. There's a guy there. I run him over, and Urlacher is right there, and there's nothing I can do. All I can do is go right into him, and I run him over, and I score a touchdown. Right, but unbeknownst to me, that they get all of this footage like in the cameras, right? And so now this picture is out there of me in that moment, and it was one of the biggest moments of my career, but it was one of the biggest moments of our season because that kind of turned the tide for us as a football
Yeah.
team, and it put us on the path to go down and have a chance to win a championship.
I mean, literally, you won your last 4 games of the regular season to get into the postseason as the number 6 seed.
Yes.
No one had ever won the Super Bowl before as a 6 seed. So on the wild card weekend, you get the Bengals, a little revenge game there. That was the Kimo von Oelhoffen game. But then comes the Colts. Now, people might have forgotten the 2005 Colts. I think they started 13-0, and then there was the tragedy with Tony Dungy's son passing, and they sort of got through the end of the regular season. But they were the number 1 seed, and this was going to be Peyton's year. And you guys go to that game. That was one of the weirdest playoff games I can ever remember watching. And it's late in that game, and you guys are up 21-18, and you're about to win to go to the AFC Championship game. And they're like, we're going to the AFC Championship game. We're going to give Bus the touchdown to seal the game. To seal the game. It's going to be there, and it's going to be the greatest story in the world. They hand it off to you, and oh my God, what happened?
It was an actual, I call it an interception, because it wasn't a fumble and the ball hits the ground. This was more like an interception. The ball never hit the ground. So I'm running. It's a goal line play. I'm running to hit it up in there, and I kind of turn sideways to get through the hole. And as I turn sideways, a linebacker, I think it's Brackett.
Gary Brackett, big head Brackett.
He came right across my chest, and his helmet hit the ball, and it popped the ball up in the air. And all I can remember and see was I was already turning, going backwards, and the ball is going that way, and I can see it, but I can't get to it. And then once I hit the ground, it takes you a couple seconds to get up, and guys are, because it's a pile. So I'm trying to, get up and find. And once I get up, I see the
Nick Harper,
Nick cornerback, Nick Harper, running down the right sideline, and before you know it, I see Ben kind of backpedaling, doing this thing, and I will say this: one of the most amazing tackles you could ever imagine in that type of scenario, because you got to know that Ben is not the fastest guy in the world, right?
And he's a quarterback. Don't really tackle a lot.
And his cornerback, if he decides to cut across the field, he's got the entire field to get around Ben. And there's no fast guys on the field, on the goal line unit. It was all big guys. So it was really Ben or nothing. And in that moment, in my weakest moment, I tell you, because people ask me all the time, what were you thinking? When it hit, I was thinking, oh, bleep, 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 bleep. I can't believe it's happening, right? And so to see Ben, navigating his way and then actually tackle the guy, it was the most amazing moment you could have ever imagined. Now, I was still sick because Peyton Manning has the ball with a chance to go down and win the football game or tie it with the field goal. It was a very sickening feeling that I had. But I tell you what, my defense all day was incredible, and they were not going to allow us to lose that game, and they found a way to force them to have to kick a field goal.
Well, two things I remember that real quick before we move on to the Super Bowl. One, you might have recalled or didn't know that week Nick Harper had gotten into a little tiff with his significant other, and she had sort of stabbed him in the leg. And I think that maybe that might have slowed him down a little bit.
He had his knee wrapped up. His knee was wrapped up. I did see that. Yeah.
And then Vanderjagt was there to kick a field goal that would have sent it to overtime. And I'm telling you, he couldn't have missed it by more. It almost didn't stay in the stadium. I
tell people it landed in the tunnel in the corner. I mean, he hit it that far right where it kind of went towards the corner when you go into the stadium off the field. It was that wide right. It wasn't even close.
Yeah.
And it was, I'll tell you what, that was the most incredible moment for me because obviously it saved the day and I wasn't a GOAT because you got to think, 13 years, I'm playing this game. I've had some incredible moments and I'm thinking while I'm sitting on the sideline because understand, when you make a mistake like that, I'm on the sideline. It's like I'm a leopard. Nobody is around me, right? I'm sitting there by myself. Nobody is speaking to me. It's like, I'm in no man's land. And in those times, you got to just, you're sitting there thinking, and I'm thinking to myself, I'll never forget, I said to myself, is this how, my career is supposed to end? And I said, Lord, if this is how you want it to end, then I'm okay with it. I'm gonna pick my head up and I'm gonna carry myself with pride. But I'm telling you, I was sick. I mean, really ill. And when he missed the field goal, it was such a big relief off of me. It was like I was given a second chance.
Yeah, and you tap danced those guys in the AFC Championship game. And I'll never forget, after it was over, I remember seeing your face as soon as the game was over on the sidelines in Denver, and they caught you on camera saying, "We going home. We going home to Detroit." And that was the whole thing. And I remember being in Detroit. Our studios were at the Ren Center right downtown. And when you guys came off the bus, the plane rather, almost all of your Steeler teammates were wearing your Notre Dame jerseys or your high school jerseys. That had to be the coolest thing in the world.
I'm gonna tell you what, it was the coolest thing because you got Troy Polamalu, who was USC, who like Notre Dame with a passion, right? Larry Foote, again, University of Michigan, hates Notre Dame. And there was a couple other guys that, just Notre Dame is not the liked team, if you will.
Yeah.
And all of those guys to a man said, we're wearing this jersey out of respect and appreciation for you. And they let me know it now. But it was a special moment because I knew how important it was for them to really show me that love and appreciation. And it felt so good to know that my teammates thought of me in that way because obviously, you play football and this is a test of wills and you're trying to be a leader of men and you're trying to show them the correct path and the way to do things. And you don't expect to get that type of acknowledgement. But for all those guys to wear that, and they didn't tell me, they just showed up and I just was, my jaw was just on the floor like, what?
Yeah.
And just to see how many guys had it, I was like, first of all, where'd you guys get all these jerseys from, right? I'm like, just who thought of that? And it was just, I had so many questions, but it was just amazing to see those guys think that much of me, to get off the plane with my jersey on in Detroit, my hometown.
So I just have to ask, as you're sitting there on the sidelines at the Colts game at the old RCA Dome thinking, well, if this is my last play, I'm good with it, to then a few weeks later seeing the confetti fly in your hometown and realizing I'm going out a champion. How different were those two emotions you were going through?
It was the extremes on both sides. It was the worst moment that I had ever been in from a football perspective. I mean, from high school, college, the worst moment ever to have it in a uniform, to the most exhilarating moment to ever have, to be able to go from one extreme to the other, right? Just in a couple weeks. Usually it doesn't happen in a lifetime. And to go in a couple weeks, to have that, it was so gratifying, because obviously, you, as football players, every year is it's a zero sum game.
Yeah.
It's like, it's either you win it all or you lose. It doesn't matter. You come in second place, third place, you lost, right? And so because of that, there's a finality, with every season. And here I am, able to have this moment after 12 years of disappointment, to have it, and really, I thought that it would never happen to me. Just a year before, I said, "Hey, I don't think I'm ever going to be a champion, but I'm okay with," and coming to the grips with it. But to now have the Lombardi Trophy in my hand, right? To have it in my hand and to kiss it, it was just like, this is the nastiest thing in the world, and I'm gonna give this the kiss I can give it. I promise you that, right? But it was just that moment of the emotions. But let me say this, and let me come
Yeah.
back, because there's an important part of this that I'm missing, and I have to apologize. After we won Cincinnati game, Ben Roethlisberger came to me and he said, "I promised you we're gonna get you there. This is the first one." After we won in Indianapolis, he came to me and said, "Jerome, I promised you I was going to get you. This is the second one." After we won Denver, he said, "Jerome, we're not done yet. I promised you I was going to get you to the Super Bowl," right? And after we win the Super Bowl, he gives me the game ball. He shoves it in my helmet and he says, "I told you, I promised you I was going to get you to the Super Bowl." And I told him, "Hey, your promise is complete. I love you, man. I appreciate it." We gave each other a big hug. And that was the moment when it all became reality. When he shoved that ball in my helmet and said, "I promised you I was gonna get you to the Super Bowl." And his words never rang more true than that moment.
Listen, that's the shit that you'll never have anywhere else the rest of your life. Like, look, we
No.
worked together for a few years on NFL Live, and I enjoyed our time together. There was a camaraderie, but nothing will ever replace that. And I think this is a perfect place to end, because you've been so generous with your time. But I always enjoyed working with you because you were professional. You knew how to do the job, and you came prepared. And you left me once with one of the greatest pearls of wisdom, and I think this is the perfect way to sort of end this episode of Half Forgotten History. We were talking about, it was either Le'Veon Bell or somebody, I can't remember who it was, but you had the greatest line of all time, and you said, if everywhere you go it smells like shit, it might just be you.
That was it.
I'm like, I don't think I've ever heard anything greater in 25 years of doing this job. And I was like, you just nailed it, my friend. You just nailed it.
Well, that comes from a lot of locker room talk from some with more wisdom than I. So
Yeah.
I did the same thing. I kind of, that pearl I took with me. It has been with me ever since, and I always kind of think back to it when guys are making some stupid decisions, and they think that they don't know where this is coming from. It's like, excuse me.
Yeah.
This is happening a lot to you. You gotta think about it, buddy. Might be you.
Yeah, you might be the common denominator here. So look, anyway,
Exactly.
I always enjoyed working with you. We played a couple of rounds of golf together. I was so happy to be there to watch you go into the Hall of Fame. And just thank you for telling these stories, because there's so many parts of your story that people have forgotten or probably never heard of. They're going to have so much fun listening to this. So again, I appreciate your time. I appreciate our friendship, and I appreciate our time we worked together. The great Jerome Bettis, everybody.
And Trey, I just want to say thank you as well. You were incredible as a mentor, because you have to remember, all of us coming into your world, it was all a new experience for us, and you treated us with a lot of respect. Although we were so new in the industry, and probably didn't deserve as much respect as you gave all of us. So I just want you to know from not only myself, but every guy who sat next to you on those desks, we appreciate your complete wizardry of the business, but also how you handled us. So thank you so much. I appreciate you.
You got it, brother, anytime. All right, thanks again to Jerome Bettis for joining us. He didn't have to say all those nice things. Actually, he did, because he would have been a jerk if he did. No, he didn't have to, and I appreciated it. Always had fun working with the bus, and helping us kick off Season 5 with a Hall of Famer, never a bad thing. Coming up next week on Half Forgotten History, a quarterback who stood his ground and changed his career for the better. Former Heisman Trophy winner, #1 overall pick, and a guy who made some really interesting choices in his career, quarterback Carson Palmer. That's next week on Half Forgotten History. We'll see you then.